Well, there you have it, folks. Get ready for your favorite key visual novels to become gacha games. Cannot wait for that Clannad gacha, the Air gacha, the Canon gacha, the Angel Beach gacha. It's all gonna be gacha, gacha, gacha. Yes, unfortunately, Visual Arts has sold itself to Tencent. So for those who don't know who Tencent is, it is a massive, massive Chinese company that has its hand in pretty much every single gaming company and other companies. But yeah, most probably know its ownership of Riot Games, large ownership of Epic Games. This is just a company that has its hand in every single cookie jar. But yes, there was a big blog post on Visual Arts' website where company president Takahiro Baba explained everything. In this blog post, he went on to explain his decision, how they made that decision, and who they chose, why they chose them, and yes, the future of Visual Arts itself. He makes no qualms explaining the fact that he's 63 years old. No, he's not in trouble. It's not like he's getting sick or anything like that, but there was a little bit of concern in the idea that, yes, technically his family owns 100% shares of this company. So if anything happened to him without anybody to kind of pass it on to, it would just close. Which, yes, is a growing concern for a lot of people. A lot of visual novel companies just kind of disappear. And with Visual Arts having so many fantastic properties, for those that aren't aware, we have Clannad, we have Air, Planetarian, Little Busters, Angel Beats, Rewrite, Summer Pockets, Prima Dolls, and yes, here recently, Heaven's Burn Red. If something were to happen to Baba, the whole thing disappears. The door's shut. All the almost 70 employees just are out of a job. And so what his kind of concern here is that, look, I kind of want to retire, but I want to make sure this company goes to somebody that's going to keep it strong. So according to him, they essentially sat down with the people of the company and kind of decided, who do we want to give this company to? Who out there is a strong enough company that has a healthy future to them, that can hold these properties and hold the company itself long into the future? And it seems as if, according to him, they came to the decision of Tencent, a massive conglomerate that, yes, is looking pretty damn healthy. Now, yes, myself included, a lot of people are really concerned, like, man, that doesn't sound good. A Chinese massive company, Tencent especially, handling this thing that we cherish so much is a bit concerning. I mean, I have back here on the shelf a whole bunch of key visual novels. I sort of have that concern, though I will admit I haven't played through all of them. Yes, technically when most people think of Chinese game development, they think of transactions, they think of mobile games, gachas, and all that kind of stuff. Even though technically that was created in Japan, let's be perfectly honest. When we think of key visual novels, we don't think of gacha games, even though, yes, technically their recent reason why they're staying afloat is a gacha game. So the immediate concern is, will Visual Arts stay being Visual Arts, or is it just going to become whatever Tencent wants them to become? Baba states in this blog post that, yes, Visual Arts is going to remain Visual Arts. They say that like 3 times in this blog post. It's going to remain what it is. Now, the argument can be made, the reason why they're still open today is because a gacha game. So is it really going to change with Tencent buying them? I don't really think so. There's a section in this blog post where they pretty much go over Visual Arts' aim for the future. They want to remain Visual Arts. Here's a second point in which they claim they will remain Visual Arts. But in this segment, they sort of give hints as to sort of why they chose Tencent. They want to create IPs that can be used around the world. They were looking for a global company, and Tencent is a global company. They were involved in visual novels, kinetic novels, mobile games that here recently, anime, live performances, etc., etc. And they want to continue what they were doing, but then giving emphasis to how large Tencent is as a gaming company, with a large push in mobile games market, involving large capital. Yes, Tencent is going to make some money, and how to make that money is mobile games. I mean, they're currently involved with Nikkei. And here's, I think, the telling part of this entire blog as to the future of visual arts. They later stated, in other words, the narrative content that started in visual novels has been expanded to various medias and will continue forever. I think that's one of those kind of lines where it's like, yeah, it depends on what translator you use and who you ask, because it really does sound like how that's structured. They're literally saying, yeah, we started with visual novels and then we expanded out from that, and we're going to continue to do that. Make no mistake, visual novels are huge, but they're not massive. And many can argue the only reason that visual arts is still open today is because they made a successful mobile game. Because of Jumaida, Heaven's Burn Red, the developers, they made a mobile game that put them back into the green. Like, it bumped them back up. They even state at some point in here, thankful to Jun Maeda, mainly due to Heavens Burn Red. Due to this, they were able to transfer through favorable negotiations. Yes, mainly the idea that we were going to sell it back here and we weren't going to get much for it. But then that did really well, so we got quite a bit more money for it. It's kind of one of those areas of statements where you start to go, you guys aren't doing this for visual arts. It's like what you started this entire blog with this idea of, I'm retiring and I want to give it to a company that has a future and everybody will be happy. Just say you wanted a lot of money and Tencent gave you the most money. And granted, Tencent probably, compared to everything else that Tencent has its hand in and it has its funding in, this is probably a drop in the bucket. Like, I would have no doubts that visual arts as a company did not cost them that much. Which makes me kind of consider the only reason they're really going with them is they have a lot of creatives there, but more so in the idea they probably want the properties, because the properties sell well with things like gacha games. But in the end, yes, it does seem like based on how this is sort of being worded, they love visual novels. I mean, they go into this great detail of how they pretty much revived this concept of visual novels really centered around juveniles. This idea of a protagonist that overcomes the world's trials and builds relationship with these young girls that are dealing with conflicts. They love this thing. They developed their company around this concept. They re-sparked that love for these types of visual novels. But this is the future. Sadly, I know it hurts for people, but this is the future. If Visual Studios wasn't already walking away from visual novels and into gacha games, they're going to now. Make no mistake, they were probably already doing that, and they will in the future. But there was one little glimmer of hope for those that do still want visual novels, because sadly, I just don't think it's going to happen anymore. They say that despite the concerns of change, they don't want to change what they're doing. Their focus is to raise the quality of stories and create stories that continue to impress. So I guess still at its heart, the idea here is despite that things are going to change, even though you have concerns that things are going to change, at its core, their core focus is still stories. Which I think, honestly, in my perspective, understanding that visual novels aren't a profitable thing compared to so many other things, including mobile games, my shred of hope is that if they are going to go into the mobile game market, if they're going to go into gacha games, at least they keep at its core that desire to tell great stories. Because it doesn't matter what kind of medium I consume these stories, whether it is a visual novel, if it is a gacha game, if it is an anime, it just has to have a really good story. And that's what I fell in love with their properties. Key specifically is those stories. It was the first time I watched Air. That was the first key property that I ever consumed. And I immediately fell in love with it. Then I went to Clannad. I loved these stories. Angel Beats. I love these stories. Still in the closing of this blog, Takahiro Baba kind of left it to the next president, Genki Tenkomo, to pretty much announce the upcoming visual novels, anime, mobile games, and assure fans of the future. So, I don't know, it's like he doesn't want to say that there's a visual novel coming, but he's saying there's a visual novel coming. So I guess for the fans of the visual novels, they might have something coming. I don't know. He's just going to leave it to the next guy if they're going to announce it or not. He's like, I don't even know if they're going to announce that new thing that we're working on. They're probably just going to scrap that. They'll probably just turn it into a mobile game or something like that. I mean, truth be told, that is the concern here. I think overall, the biggest concern is this the death of visual novels? And I would argue that the death of visual novels was gacha games, because essentially you can make a visual novel within a gacha game. Now, it's more difficult because most cases you're going to make a kinetic visual novel, one that goes one route, because you're not going to make a mobile gacha game that has multiple routes, because that would be way too difficult in the long run of 5-year span that you probably want to develop it. But the concept of visual novels themselves has pretty much become mobile games. If you play a mobile game, you're pretty much playing a visual novel. It has the same characters on the screen, it has the text, it has voicing most of the time. It's just in the background, you're rolling for characters. Now, yes, there's still visual novels being developed, but I think it's all but dying at this point. Big visual novel fans can probably disagree with me here, but again, if a company wants to be successful these days, they can't just rely strictly on making a visual novel. I mean, development-wise, it's a lot more simpler than a mobile game, because with a mobile game, you're having to develop a game itself, you're having to make it playable on different platforms, you're having to make it to where it's pretty much has a buy-in system, currency, and be able to take in transactions, having servers that are constantly hitting, sending updates, all that kind of stuff. Whereas a visual novel is one done, put it in software and send it out. So I don't think visual novels are going to ever completely die, because it's a lot less development. But for a decent sized company or larger, they're going to go after that mobile game market. Putting that aside, in the end, do I think this is a bad choice? I don't know. It's really a hard sell for me because on one end, I am happy for Baba. I think he did a fantastic job. I mean, it's because of him and all the people involved that I had so many great stories that I've already witnessed. At the same time, I understand from the perspective of him having ownership of this company, and then if anything happened to him, it would just die. Really sucks. It would be heartbreaking if tomorrow we found out that something happened to him, and then suddenly all these properties are dead. There's nobody to license it out to. Nobody can buy the licenses. Nobody can ever reproduce these licenses because it all went away with him. And he's trying to ensure that that continues on. But not just that, but everybody employed under him can continue to make stuff that they want to make. He could have easily just closed the company, but he was trying to find a company that he can get handed off to that can keep it going on into the future. I kind of wish that it was a different company because honestly, with a Chinese company, there's concerns of censorship and all this other kind of stuff that might apply to it. And again, technically, since Tencent is not a company for making visual novels, it's a company for making profitable games. They're going to obviously change something. Every time these buyouts and these sales happen, they always say, this will remain this. It never does. I am so tired of hearing that, and I know it's just to ease the fans and not make people outrage, but it's never the case. And if anybody sees that and goes, well, at least it'll stay the same, they're delusional. It never stays the same. All companies, when a buyout happens, will change eventually. Typically, they wait 6 months to a year, but eventually, they will get in there. A company doesn't spend a lot of money on something and then just let it sit there. They're going to get in there and utilize what they just bought to make that money back. And because of that, yes, my concern around this is huge. My assumption here is that they're just going to basically turn all these properties into mobile games. They're going to utilize this group to produce more mobile games. Find if Clannad can sell. Find out if Clannad can sell. Make a mobile game of Clannad, see if it sells. Make a mobile game of Rewrite, see if it sells. Make one for Summer Pockets too. That one's a recent one. Make it, see if it sells. And this isn't a mobile game producing company. So in the end, my concern becomes, what assets of visual arts does Tencent want? They don't want them for being a visual novel company. Again, visual novels don't make enough money compared to everything else. So what do they want? They possibly want the writers, the talent, the properties. There it is. They'll take those properties and they'll turn them into something that makes money. Everything else, don't need. All those employees, they're producing stuff we don't need. That's my concern. My only concern is what I don't see. That Baba's seen something here that was beneficial to this company and not just his pocket. Of course, he does state that the staff chose this. So hopefully they all knew something was coming. They all knew that they would respect what they want to create. That's the hope. But anyhow, them's the breaks. I would love to hear you guys' opinion on this, especially all the visual novel fans out there. Let me know in the comments down below. Is this scary stuff? Does this suck? At the same time, did you see it coming? Again, I don't think the sale to Tencent is going to kill the visual novels at Visual Arts. I think it was already dead. I think the moment that Heavens Burn Red brought them back up into a positive state, that was their future. But I would love to hear what you guys think. Anyhow, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. As always, if you did, make sure that like button down below. Again, comment. Let me know what you thought of this whole situation. If you're new to the channel, make sure that subscribe button to get all my content. I do news, reviews, first impressions, top list. If it's anime, it's pretty much here. Additionally, if you want to support this channel more, I have a Patreon link, tips link, super thanks, membership button down below. I greatly appreciate it, but it does. And y'all take care.